The twin suns of Vornus 9 shone over the silver cities of the Thalorian Empire, a world known for its perfect symmetry, tall crystal towers, and elegant citizens with flawless bodies. To the Thalorians, beauty was a sign of strength, and strength was everything. But for one young woman named Lyra, those bright suns only reminded her of what she could never be. Lyra was born different. Her right leg was shorter than the other, and her skin bore faint silver scars, marks of a birth accident that no healer had been able to fix. Among the Thalorians, who valued perfection above all, she was seen as incomplete. When she walked through the city's floating markets, others looked away. Children whispered. Some adults muttered, "Unfortunate genetics." She learned to keep her head down, to move quietly, to stay unseen. Lyra lived in a small chamber near the edge of the city dome, where the force field met the dusty plains. From there she could see the stars at night, far beyond her people's pride and prejudice. She often dreamed of other worlds where imperfection might not be a curse. And one day, those dreams came closer than she imagined. The Human Expeditionary Corps had arrived on Vornus 9 just a month ago. They came in peace, offering trade, culture, and scientific exchange. To the Thalorians, the humans were odd creatures, fragile in body, reckless in emotion, yet somehow thriving among the stars. The two species had started to learn from each other, but curiosity still ran deep on both sides. Lyra had never seen a human up close, only through holoscreens. Their voices fascinated her, warm, uneven, alive. She often listened secretly to the broadcasts coming from the human base. One day, while delivering mineral samples to the science dome, she overheard two Thalorian technicians talking. They say one of the humans volunteered for cross-cultural study, one said with a chuckle. A biological compatibility project. Ridiculous, the other replied. Who would choose to mate with such primitive species? Lyra paused, pretending to check her datapad, though her heart ached at the word mate. It was the season of pairing, when every Thalorian adult was required to select a partner to continue the genetic line. She knew her name wasn't even on the list. No one would choose her. She turned to leave, but almost collided with someone. Someone tall, wearing a black and blue suit with the insignia of Earth Command. Whoa, sorry there, the stranger said. His voice carried a soft accent and an easy calm. He smiled, eyes bright and curious. Didn't see you coming. Lyra looked up, startled. The human had brown hair, light skin, and eyes like liquid amber. He didn't look disgusted or curious, just normal. It's fine, she said quickly. My mistake, he tilted his head. No mistake. I was lost. These hallways all look the same. She blinked, unsure how to respond. Most Thalorians ignored her. You're from Earth? Yeah, he grinned. Lieutenant Elias Carter, xenoanthropologist at your service. She nodded politely. Lyra of House Tenar. Nice to meet you, Lyra. He said her name like it mattered, like it was something worth saying aloud. Over the next few days, Elias noticed her again, always working alone in corners, carrying equipment or data pads, silent among her own kind. He found himself curious about her, not because of her scars but because of her quiet strength. When others looked away, she kept moving. When ignored, she still helped everyone around her. He began greeting her every morning. Sometimes she replied with a small smile, sometimes with a nod. Slowly, their brief exchanges turned into conversations, small ones at first. He asked about her work. She asked about Earth. You have rain? She asked one evening, eyes wide. Yeah, he said, laughing. Water that falls from the sky. Cold clean everywhere. That sounds beautiful. You'd love it, he said softly. She looked away, unsure why her heart beat faster. But not everyone liked their friendship. Thalorian society watched everything. When others saw a human and a defective Thalorian talking, often whispers began. Why does the alien speak with her? Maybe he pities her. Maybe he doesn't know what she is. Lyra heard them all. Each word was a knife. She tried to pull away to avoid Elias, but he noticed. Did I do something wrong? He asked one day. No, she said quickly. But you shouldn't talk to me. It's not good for your image. My image? He repeated, confused.
Lyra, I'm not here for that.
I'm here to learn. You don't understand, she whispered. Among my people, I'm broken. No one wants to stand beside me, not even for a moment. Elias looked at her, his brow furrowed. That's nonsense. You're one of the strongest people I've met here. You don't mean that, he stepped closer, voice firm. I do. You walk into rooms where others look away. You do your work while they gossip. You keep going. That's strength, Lyra, the kind humans admire. For a moment she couldn't speak. No one had ever said such words to her before. Days passed. The pairing ceremony drew near. Every adult would declare their partner before the council, ensuring the continuation of pure genetics. It was a celebration for most, a reminder for Lyra that she would be alone forever. She attended only because her supervisor demanded it. The grand hall glittered with crystal banners and lights. Music echoed through the chamber as pairs stepped forward. Hands joined, faces proud. Lyra stood at the edge of the crowd, invisible as always, until a voice echoed from the entrance, calm, human and impossible to miss. Excuse me, Ilias said, stepping into the hall. His translator badge glowed faintly on his chest. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to make a request before your council. The room fell silent. The Thalorian High Chancellor frowned. A human? You interrupt our sacred ceremony? Elias bowed respectfully. Forgive me, Your Excellency, but I came to understand your traditions and to participate in them if allowed. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Participate? He cannot be serious. The Chancellor's voice hardened. You know not what you ask. Pairing is sacred among us. I know, Elias said. Then turning toward the stunned crowd, he said clearly, I wish to ask Lyra of House Tenar, will you mate with me? The hall froze. Time itself seemed to stop. Lyra's eyes widened, her heart thundering in her chest. She looked around, faces filled with shock, disgust, disbelief. The Chancellor's expression darkened. You choose her? Yes, Elias said firmly. I do. Why? Someone hissed. She is flawed. Elias met their eyes, unflinching. Because where I come from, we don't measure worth by symmetry. We see it in courage, kindness, and heart, and Lyra has more of that than any of you. Gasps filled the chamber. Lyra trembled, unable to breathe. She wanted to speak, to stop him, to thank him. She didn't know what. The Chancellor finally said coldly, You may do as you wish, human. But understand this, you bring dishonor upon her name. Elias looked at Lyra. Then I'll carry that dishonor with her. Something inside her broke, not in pain, but in release. Tears welled in her eyes. For the first time in her life, someone had chosen her, not despite her scars, but with them. She stepped forward slowly, the hall watching in stunned silence. She stood beside Elias and whispered, barely audible, Yes, I will. The crowd erupted me, some in outrage, some in whispers, but none louder than the beating of her heart. That night, under the twin moons, Lyra stood on the observation deck of the human base, looking out at the stars. Elias joined her quietly. You okay? She nodded slowly. I don't know what happens next. Neither do I, he said with a smile. But maybe that's the best part. She looked at him, the human who had seen her when no one else did. For the first time, she didn't feel broken. She felt alive. And far above, among the stars, the universe seemed to whisper, Sometimes humanity isn't born on Earth. It's found in the hearts brave enough to see beauty where others see flaws. The morning after the pairing ceremony, the city of Thaler Prime no longer looked like home to Lyra. Everywhere she went, eyes followed her. Cold, disapproving, filled with quiet disgust. Holoscreens replayed the human's bold declaration across the network. I wish to ask Lyra of House Tenar, will you mate with me? The words that had changed her life were now a source of endless gossip. In the public forums, Thalorians debated her existence as if she were not a person, but a problem. Has she lost her mind? She shamed her lineage. A human? Barbaric. Even her small living unit had been sealed by her family's order. Her access codes were revoked, her family crest erased from the network. Lyra stood outside the door, staring at the blinking red denial light, feeling the cold wind touch her face. Her people had cast her out. At the same time, within the human embassy dome, Elias Carter faced his own storm. His superiors were not pleased. Lieutenant Carter, said Commander Reed, his voice stern, do you realize what you've done? You violated cultural boundaries without authorization. Elias stood at attention. Sir, I acted with respect. My choice was voluntary and honorable. Honor is not the issue, Reed replied. Diplomatic tensions are already high. The Thalorians see this as an insult, a genetic contamination of their pure line. They've suspended trade talks. The Council has demanded your removal. Ilias's jaw tightened. So be it, but I won't abandon her. Reed sighed, rubbing his temples. You have a good heart, Carter. But sometimes good hearts start wars. By midday, the protests began. Outside the human base, Thalorian citizens gathered, waving banners, chanting, demanding Lyra's exile and the humans' departure. Drones floated above, capturing every moment. Inside, Lyra sat quietly in a small lounge, looking out through the glass. The noise outside sounded like a storm. Elias entered the room, carrying a tray of warm tea. They're not going to calm down soon, he said. She smiled faintly. You shouldn't be here. You're already in trouble because of me. I'm here because I want to be, he said simply. Tea? She accepted it, her silver eyes reflecting the pale light. My people believe imperfection brings weakness. Now they think I've spread that weakness to you. Elias chuckled softly. Funny. On Earth, we believe imperfection is what makes us real. She looked at him, confused. Real? Yeah, he said. It means we make mistakes, fall down, learn, and keep going. That's how we grow. That's how we evolve. Lyra looked down at her hands. Maybe that's why humans reach the stars. You don't fear flaws, you learn from them. Elias smiled. Maybe. Or maybe we're just too stubborn to quit. That night, the human embassy received a formal order from the Thalorian Council. It stated that Lyra was to be banished from the city, and Elias was to leave Vornis 9 within 3 days. When Elias read it, his hands clenched into fists. They can't do this, Commander Reed's voice was heavy. They can, and they have the right under interplanetary law. We can't defy it without risking open conflict. Elias turned toward the observation window, where Lyra stood watching the twin moons rise. Then I'm going with her. Reed's eyes widened. You'd give up your career for her? Elias didn't hesitate. I'd give up anything for what's right. Lyra didn't argue when he told her. She knew it was pointless. Her people had made their choice, but as they prepared to leave, a part of her heart ached for what could have been. She stood once more at the city's edge, where the glass barrier met the plains. The lights of Thalor Prime glowed behind her, a place that had never truly been hers. I was born here, she whispered, but it never felt like home. Elias placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Then maybe it's time to find a new one. They boarded a small human shuttle at dawn, heading for the orbiting ship Endurance. As the engines ignited, Lyra looked down one last time at her shining city, her people, her past. She didn't cry. Not anymore, but fate had other plans. Halfway to orbit, the ship's sensors detected pursuit. 3 Thalorian interceptors appeared behind them, fast and armed. Unauthorized departure detected, the comms announced coldly. Return the Exile immediately. Elias cursed under his breath. They're not going to let you go. Lyra's voice trembled. They'll shoot us down if we don't obey. He shook his head. I've flown worse. He turned to the pilot. Get us out of the atmosphere. Full burn. The small shuttle roared, cutting through the clouds as plasma trails streaked behind. Laser warnings flashed on the console. One beam grazed the rear stabilizer, shaking the ship violently. Damage to thrusters. The pilot shouted. Elias gritted his teeth. Divert power to shields. Lyra clutched the seat, fear rising in her chest. They won't stop, Elias. They'll destroy us. He looked back at her, eyes fierce. Then they'll have to catch us first. The shuttle burst through the upper atmosphere, engines screaming until the stars appeared like silver dust. The Endurance loomed ahead, massive, beautiful human. Hang on, the pilot yelled. Docking in 10 seconds. A final energy blast hit the ship. But this time the human vessel's defense grid activated, creating a protective barrier that scattered the Thalorian beams. Endurance to shuttle, you're clear. We've got you covered. Cheers erupted inside. Lyra collapsed into her seat, trembling with relief. Elias smiled at her. Told you I'd get you home. When the shuttle docked, the crew of the Endurance greeted them warmly, though confusion was clear. A few officers exchanged uneasy glances at the sight of the Thalorian woman beside a human. Captain Amelia Voss, tall and composed, approached them. Lieutenant Carter, you've caused quite a stir. Yes, ma'am, Elias said with a sheepish grin. She looked at Lyra and then back at him. You realize the Council has labeled her a genetic traitor? I know, Elias said firmly. And I don't care. She deserves safety. The captain studied him for a long moment. Then finally she nodded. Very well. She'll stay under Earth protection until this is resolved. But you'd better be ready. The Thalorians won't forget this. Days passed aboard the Endurance. Lyra began to adapt slowly to human life. She was amazed by the ship's openness. Humans of all shapes, colors, and sizes laughing, arguing, living without shame. No one cared that her gait was uneven, or that her scars shimmered under the lights. One afternoon, while walking through the observation deck, she saw two human engineers joking together, one missing an arm, the other wearing cybernetic legs. They noticed her watching and waved cheerfully. Hey there, one of them called. You must be the Thalorian guest. Welcome aboard. Lyra smiled shyly. You are not perfect either. The engineer laughed. Far from it. But who needs perfect when you've got purpose? Those words stayed with her. That night, she and Elias stood together by the viewing window, watching the blue glow of a nearby nebula. Do you miss them? Elias asked quietly. My people? She said. Yes. But not the way they were. I wish they could see what I see now. That worth isn't in flawless skin or symmetry. It's in what we do for others. Elias nodded. Then maybe that's the lesson they'll learn someday. She smiled softly. And if they don't? Then humanity will teach them, he said. Not with weapons, with kindness. They stood in silence for a moment, two souls from different worlds, watching the endless stars beyond the glass. And as the nebula light bathed their faces, Lyra realized something she had never felt before. Peace. She was no longer the girl no one wanted. She was the woman a human had chosen, not out of pity, but out of respect. And somewhere deep inside, she felt a quiet strength awaken. For the first time in her life, she believed that maybe, just maybe, her scars were not marks of shame, but proof that she had survived what others could not. Life aboard the Endurance had settled into a rhythm, but peace was fragile. Lyra adapted quickly to human ways, learning to walk confidently with support braces, laughing at human jokes she had once feared to understand, and observing the humans' endless curiosity about the universe. Elias watched her growth quietly, proud of her every step. Yet he knew that their troubles were far from over. The Thalorian Council had not forgotten. Messages poured into the Endurance's communication system. Formal demands, accusations, and warnings. The humans ignored most, but the threat was clear. Return Lyra or face political fallout. Lyra did not flinch. They don't understand me, she said one evening, staring out at a galaxy painted in violet and gold. I'm not just a symbol of their perfection. I'm me. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. Then let them try to define you. We'll show them what true strength looks like. A week later, the council escalated. A diplomatic envoy arrived aboard the Endurance, Thalorian officials with flashing authority insignias and cold expressions. Captain Amelia Voss met them in the main conference hall. I understand you have concerns, she said politely, gesturing to the emissaries. The chief Thalorian envoy, a tall, silver-skinned woman named Serena Vallis, spoke first. Lyra of House Tinar is a disgrace. Your species has interfered with our sacred traditions. We demand she be returned immediately, or we will sever all trade agreements and claim reparations. Elias stepped forward. Lyra is not a tool, a symbol, or property. She is a living being with rights, just as humans are. You will not take her against her will. Serena's eyes narrowed. And who are you to interfere? One human cannot defy the will of the Thalorian people. I am one human, Elias said, his voice firm. But I stand with her, and if necessary I will show you that courage matters more than perfection. The hall grew tense. Lyra felt her pulse quicken, but she did not back down. She stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. I am not a disgrace. I am Lyra of House Tinar. I choose my own path. I choose life with Elias Carter. If you cannot respect that, then you have already lost your understanding of strength. Murmurs filled the room. The emissaries were stunned. No Thalorian had ever spoken so openly in defense of themselves against the council. For the next days, negotiations continued. The humans refused to return Lyra. The Thalorians threatened sanctions. Trade ships waited in orbit, the galaxy's economy hanging in a fragile balance. But what fascinated Lyra most was how Elias handled every situation. Calm, firm, unyielding, yet respectful. He argued with logic, with empathy, with humanity. "You see," he said one night while walking on the observation deck, "strength is not in muscles or perfect symmetry. It's in standing up for what is right even when the universe tells you to hide." Lyra looked at him. "You humans truly believe that?" Elias smiled. "We have to. Otherwise we'd never have come this far." Her heart swelled. She realized then that courage could be contagious, that by choosing each other, they were teaching both species something vital. Weeks passed. Slowly, the Thalorians began to understand. Not fully, but enough to soften their stance. Reports came back that other Thalorian citizens had begun whispering, not with scorn, but with curiosity. "Maybe the human sees something we don't," some said. "Maybe imperfection isn't shameful," others murmured. Lyra felt a strange warmth. For the first time she believed her choice could spark change, but their peace was tested again. While on a survey mission in an uncharted system, the Endurance encountered a rogue asteroid swarm, unstable, unpredictable, and deadly. The ship's navigation systems warned of imminent collision. Lyra stood beside Elias in the control room, fear gripping her chest. "We're going to crash," she shouted over the alarms. Elias gripped her hand. "No, we're going to survive, and together." The crew worked furiously. Shields redirected, engines surged, and the ship tilted at impossible angles. For a moment, time seemed to slow. Lyra's heart pounded, but she noticed something remarkable. The humans around her worked as one, imperfect, unpolished, but united. Each mistake corrected by someone else, each challenge met with creativity. A massive asteroid loomed. Alarms screamed. Elias looked at the pilot. "Now!" The pilot engaged a risky maneuver. The Endurance dove, engines burning bright, weaving between tumbling rocks. Lyra held her breath, thinking of every insult, every whisper, every moment she had felt invisible. And then, they cleared the last asteroid. The alarms faded. Silence filled the control room. Lyra looked around, tears in her eyes. She turned to Elias. We made it," he smiled, squeezing her hand. "See, imperfection doesn't mean failure. Courage means survival." After that event, Lyra's confidence grew. She trained with human instructors, learning agility exercises and techniques that made her feel stronger than she ever had before. She walked without hesitation, moved without fear, and began to see her own body as a tool, not a defect. Elias watched, amazed at her transformation. "You've come so far," he said one evening. "Not because I chose you, but because you chose yourself." Lyra smiled softly. "You just helped me see it." Months passed. Finally, a formal agreement arrived from the Thalorian Council. Trade resumed, and they recognized Lyra's right to make her own choices. Not everyone approved, but the voices of dissent had lessened. When Lyra read the document, she felt a surge of pride. She had survived rejection, danger, and prejudice, and she had grown stronger. Not because others had lifted her, but because she had chosen to rise. The story of Lyra and Elias spread across both worlds. Humans celebrated the bravery of one human standing for another being's dignity. Thalorians debated quietly, some beginning to question the rigid rules of perfection and lineage. Lyra and Elias stood on the Endurance's observation deck, side by side watching the stars. "Do you ever wonder," she asked softly, "if this is just the beginning?" "Of course," he replied, taking her hand. "The universe is vast, and there will always be challenges. But as long as we face them together, nothing can break us." She leaned against him, feeling the steady warmth of his presence. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel weak, broken, or incomplete. She was Lyra, survivor, explorer, and chosen. Elias smiled at her. "You know," he said, "I think humans were always meant to meet beings like you, to remind them that heart matters more than perfection." Lyra laughed softly, the sound echoing through the empty observation deck. "And maybe we remind humans the same thing, that courage is more than muscles or technology." He kissed her forehead gently. "Exactly. And together, we'll show the galaxy." As the Endurance sailed past shimmering nebulae, Lyra felt a sense of belonging she had never known. She was not alone, not broken, not invisible. For the first time, she looked at her scars and smiled. They were proof that she had faced the world, faced rejection, and survived. Proof that she was strong, proof that humanity, in the heart of one brave human, had chosen her, and that choice had changed everything. The twin sons of Vornis 9 now felt distant, small, and insignificant compared to the vastness of the universe and the strength she had found within herself. No one had wanted to mate with her, but one human had, and that was enough. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the stars above. For the first time, she believed in the impossible, that love, courage, and humanity could transcend worlds, and she knew that together, she and Elias would face whatever lay ahead, unbroken, unbowed, and unstoppable.